If this message found you today, take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. The person you were is not the person you are becoming. Your quantum transition was never about changing the world around you. It was about transforming the world within you. Trust the path that is unfolding, even if you cannot see every step ahead. The synchronicities, the lessons, and the challenges all brought you to this moment. And remember, this is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a new reality, a new level of awareness, and a new version of you. The best is yet to come.
A field that has more room in it than you are accustomed to. Things that used to require enormous internal management no longer do. Energy that was perpetually allocated to the maintenance of coherence through difficulty is suddenly available for something else. And that availability at first can feel almost disorienting, because struggle was the familiar texture for so long that ease feels foreign. This is what transition complete feels like from the inside. The settledness, the spaciousness, the strange unfamiliarity of a field that is no longer under the specific pressures that defined the crossing. You have been feeling this. You may have been second-guessing it. Stop second-guessing it. This is what you arrived at. Everything you moved through to complete this transition was not the price of arrival. It was the construction of the self that arrived. The quantum transition is not a passage from one version of your life to another version of the same life. Slightly better circumstances, improved conditions, upgraded outcomes. It is a reorganization of the field itself, of the internal configuration that determines which experiences are available to you, which frequencies you can sustain, which version of reality you inhabit. And that kind of reorganization cannot be produced by comfortable conditions. It requires the specific pressure of being held in a state that is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Long enough, with enough intensity, that the old configuration becomes unsustainable and the new one becomes inevitable. Every difficult season that felt like delay was the pressure that made the new configuration structurally necessary. Every period of sustained uncertainty was the field refusing to let you settle back into what you were moving out of. Every moment of carrying the knowing without outer confirmation was the construction of a frequency stability that the completed state requires, because the version of you that arrives cannot be shaken by the same things that shook the version that entered. The quantum transition does not produce someone who got through the hard part. It produces someone who cannot go back to who they were before it, not because the past was wrong, because the field that completed the transition operates at a level that the previous configuration simply cannot contain. The crossing built something that the destination requires, and you are standing in it now. Here is what transition complete means at the level of the quantum field, and why the outer world is about to begin reflecting it faster than you expect. In quantum field terms, a transition completes when the new configuration of the receiver's internal field becomes the attractor rather than the previous one. The old configuration was the gravity. It was what circumstances organized around, what experiences were drawn into, what the universe used as the address for everything routed to your frequency. The new configuration is now the gravity, and everything that belongs to the completed frequency, the relationships, resources, opportunities, and experiences calibrated to who you have become, is now in the process of organizing toward you. The outer world follows the field, always, without exception. The only variable is the delay between the field change and the surface expression, and that delay is determined by how completely the new configuration has stabilized as the attractor. When the transition is genuinely complete, when the new frequency is not being maintained by effort but held as the natural resting state, the delay collapses. The field is already organized, the surface is catching up. What is on its way to you, what the completion of this transition has positioned you to receive, is not what you would have received at the previous frequency. It is calibrated to who you are now. And what is calibrated to who you are now is significantly different from what was available before. What that looks like specifically, what the completed transition actually delivers into the outer life of someone who has crossed, is what the next part of this transmission is going to show you. I want to tell you something honest about the moment I understood my own quantum transition had completed, because it did not look the way I expected. I had been inside the transition for long enough that it had become my identity. Not in a dramatic way, just as the background texture of how I understood my life. I was someone in a crossing, someone building towards something, someone whose current reality was a phase rather than a destination. And I had become so accustomed to that frame that when the crossing actually completed, I did not recognize it. I kept waiting for the outer world to deliver a confirmation so obvious that the identity of someone in transition would be clearly replaced by the identity of someone who had arrived. That obvious confirmation never came. What came instead was quieter. The synchronicities that had been clustering intensely throughout the crossing gradually settled into something more sustained. Less dramatic, but more consistent. The things I had been working toward began completing not in the explosive arrival I had imagined, but in a steady, unhurried sequence that required no more effort to produce. The relationships that belonged to the new frequency began appearing in the natural way that things appear when the field is already organized to receive them. And one morning, I realized I had stopped managing my frequency, stopped holding it against contrary pressure, stopped maintaining the coherence of someone navigating uncertain terrain. I was simply in it, operating from it naturally, and the outer world around me was reflecting slowly but unmistakably the configuration the transition had built. The crossing was complete. It had been complete for some time. I had simply been too accustomed to the identity of transition to recognize the arrival. You may be in the same place. The transition completed before you gave yourself permission to say it did. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay at this frequency. Here is what changes everything once you genuinely receive it. The thing most people who complete a quantum transition never fully understand about what they have done. The transition did not move you to a better position in the same field. It moved you to a different field entirely. This distinction matters because it changes what you do next. Most people who complete a significant internal transition treat the arrival as the beginning of a new effort, a new set of goals to pursue from the upgraded position, a new version of the same reaching and building and working toward that defined the previous state. They bring the posture of the transition into the arrival, and in doing so, they slow the delivery of what the arrival was meant to bring. Because the arrival does not deliver through the posture of pursuit, it delivers through the posture of reception. The field you have crossed into is not one in which you need to work harder to reach what belongs to you. It is one in which what belongs to your frequency finds you, because the field is now organized around the new attractor, and the new attractor is drawing rather than chasing. The relationships, opportunities, resources, and experiences calibrated to this frequency are in motion toward you. Your only task is to be recognizable to them when they arrive. To be in the state, coherent, settled, operating from the new configuration as the natural baseline that allows the delivery to complete. This is the invitation of the completed transition. Stop reaching from the arrival. Start receiving from it. Write transitioned in the comments. Claim the state. The field receives what is named in a window of active transmission. The transition complete has specific signatures in daily experience. Let me give you the complete map so you can read what is already present in your own life. The quality of effort has changed. Things that required enormous internal management during the transition are completing with less friction. Not because the tasks are simpler, because the frequency you are operating from is no longer spending its resources on the maintenance of coherence under pressure. That energy is now available for direction rather than survival. What you build from here will not feel like what you were building during the crossing. The quality of what is arriving is different. The people, conversations, and opportunities appearing in your field right now are not the same calibration as what was arriving during the transition. Something about the texture of what the universe is routing to you has shifted, a quality of alignment that the previous frequency could not have sustained. Pay attention to what is arriving. It is showing you the configuration that completed, and the specific relationship with time is reorganizing. The chronic sense of being behind, of racing toward a future that kept receding, has softened or dissolved entirely. This is the most reliable signature of transition complete. The relationship with time shifts from urgency to presence. Not because there is nothing to build, because the building is no longer happening from a deficit. It is happening from a ground. If these signatures are present in your experience, and if you found this video they are, the transition is not approaching completion. It is done. What arrives after a quantum transition completes is not what you were reaching for during it. It is better than that, and different in a specific way that only becomes clear from the other side of the crossing. During the transition, the things you were moving toward were imagined from inside the previous frequency, colored by the lens of someone who had not yet crossed, who could not yet see what the completed state actually looks like from within it. The goals were real, the desires were genuine, but the specific form in which they were imagined was limited by the frequency that was doing the imagining. What the completed frequency attracts is calibrated to who you actually became through the transition, which is someone the previous frequency could not have fully envisioned. The relationships that arrive are not the ones you were hoping for from inside the crossing. They are better aligned, more resonant, more naturally suited to who you now are. The opportunities are not the ones you were building toward. They are the ones that belong to the field you have entered. And that field has access to configurations the previous one could not produce. The universe did not deliver what you wanted during the transition because what you wanted was imagined from a frequency that has now been superseded. What is arriving now is calibrated to the frequency that replaced it, and the specific texture of what is coming, what the completed transition has positioned you to receive in the coming weeks and months, is beyond what the version of you that entered this crossing could have asked for. Stay open to the form in which it arrives. It may not look like what you imagined. It will be more than that. When the quantum transition completes and the new frequency stabilizes as the baseline, the reorganization moves through every dimension of life simultaneously. The creative capacity opens in a way that the transition state never allowed. During the crossing, creative energy was perpetually allocated to the management of the transition itself, to maintaining coherence, navigating uncertainty, holding the frequency against the gravity of the previous state. With the transition complete, that energy is free. What flows through a field that is no longer under the specific pressures of a crossing is of a different quality entirely, more generative, less effortful, producing at a level that the previous configuration could not sustain. The relational field reorganizes. The people who belong to the completed frequency begin appearing in the natural way that resonant connections appear when the receiver is no longer broadcasting the mixed signal of someone mid-transition. The clarity of the new frequency attracts clarity in return. Connections that would have been impossible to sustain at the previous state feel natural and effortless at this one. The isolation that often characterizes the depth of a major transition lifts. Not because you sought connection, but because the field organized it, and the relationship with abundance shifts. The scarcity signal that underlies most transition states, the sense of insufficient resources, of not yet having what is needed, of lack being the defining texture of the current reality, dissolves when the transition completes and the new frequency stabilizes. The completed field does not attract from deficit. It attracts from the natural overflow of a configuration that is no longer spending its resources on survival. What arrives changes because the signal changes. This is not the future. This is what is beginning now, from the state you have already entered. Wherever you are in this process, the guide I created meets you there. The Quantum Transition Field Guide is 89 pages built for 3 specific situations. For those who are still in the middle of the crossing, who are lost in the difficulty, who have lost the thread of the knowing, who need a map for what the transition is actually asking and why the pressure is not evidence of failure but of construction. For those who have crossed but feel disoriented in the new state, who arrived and do not know what to do with the arrival, how to read what is now available, how to move from the new frequency rather than defaulting back to the old one. And for those who can feel the completion but need the framework to stabilize it, to make what the transition built permanent rather than a peak that slowly erodes back under the gravity of ordinary life. If this video described your location in any of those 3 places, the guide is the next step. The link is in the description. After this video, click it and purchase yours if you didn't yet. And if this reached you, share it. This channel is demonetized by the algorithm. The work continues through the people who carry it. Sharing this with someone in their own transition, wherever they are inside it, is the field using you to reach the next frequency that needs this map. Your completed transition does not affect only you. Every frequency that crosses a major quantum transition and stabilizes in the new configuration changes the field around it. The people in your life, the environments you move through, the collective field you are part of, they are all affected by the frequency you are now broadcasting. Not through anything you need to say or do, through the field itself. The completed frequency radiates coherence into every field it touches, and that coherence makes the transitions of those around you more available, as if the crossing of one marked frequency lowers the energetic cost of crossing for every frequency connected to it. You becoming fully arrived is not a private event, it is a contribution. There is someone in your field who is in their own transition right now, inside the crossing, carrying the knowing, approaching the threshold. They do not yet know they are close. This video reaching them, the specific transmission of what transition complete looks like and feels like, arriving before they have given up on believing the crossing will end, could be the thing that holds them through the final stretch. Send it to them. The field is already showing you who you arrived. Not eventually, not after one more thing is resolved, one more confirmation is delivered, one more outer circumstance aligns to give you permission. You arrived in the field, at the frequency, in the configuration that the transition was always building toward. The crossing is done. The new state is the state, and the outer world is in the process of catching up to what has already completed in the depth. Stop inhabiting the identity of someone still in transition. It no longer fits.
If this message found you today, take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. The person you were is not the person you are becoming. Your quantum transition was never about changing the world around you. It was about transforming the world within you. Trust the path that is unfolding, even if you cannot see every step ahead. The synchronicities, the lessons, and the challenges all brought you to this moment. And remember, this is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a new reality, a new level of awareness, and a new version of you. The best is yet to come.